Hello everyone. Welcome to the very first video of my series, Learn Python with Suchi. Oh, by the way, I am Suchi. If you're watching this video, it means you've already made up your mind to learn Python. So I will not try to sell you on how simple it is to code in Python, how Python is a high-level language that is easy to learn both for first-time programmers and experienced programmers, how despite its simplicity, it's incredibly powerful, so much so that companies like Google, Netflix, or Dropbox, and many other tech giants use it. All right, I guess I am trying to sell it, but truly, if you have never written a computer program before, Python is the best place to start. So without further ado, let's get started. Well, technically, to write Python programs, you have to install the latest version of Python, set up the path to the interpreter, download and install a code editor, and maybe optionally figure out how to install packages using pip before you can write your first piece of code. But today, let me show you the easiest way to skip all that and get to programming in a matter of minutes. Maybe as we progress in Python language, we can circle back and learn to install Python on our personal computers, but today we will start with a great free online resource called Replit.com. If you have an email account, you can set up an account with Replit and start coding using your favorite browser on the cloud. Because it's in the cloud, you can access this code anywhere on any device, including your mobile phone using their mobile app. Full disclaimer, I do not get paid for mentioning or advertising Replit. I don't get any kind of benefits. But as a programmer and as a learner of new programming languages, I think it's a great tool for beginners to get started with programming. And also with Replit, you can program in over 50 computer languages. So let's get started on creating an account with Replit, creating our very first Python REPL, and write our very first Python program. If you are a beginner to programming, Hello World is the very first program we write in any language. So let's do that. So let me just go ahead and share my screen with you all and see what I'm doing. So follow along while I create my first account with Replit. So this is where I would go, replit.com, and then it'll take you to the sign up screen. So if you have a Gmail account, a Google account that you're already logged in, you can continue with that account, or you can use your GitHub account. If you don't know what GitHub is, don't worry about it. If you have a Facebook account, you can use that to log in, or an Apple ID. But for me, I'm going to try to create a new Replit account using an email account that I've created. So first you have to select a username that is unique. So I'm going to try pi.suchi. Well, it tells me that the username can only contain alphanumeric characters, that is either A to Z or 0 to 9. So I cannot use a dot. So I'm going to try on this, Suchi for Python. And let's see. Yeah, that is available. So the green check mark here tells me that username is available. That's great. I'm going to have to write it down because I'll probably forget my username. All right, so the email account I have created just for this series is pi.suchi@gmail.com, and you can select your password. Because I'm using Firefox, it's prompting to create a password for me, but you can create your own password. Don't use your email password. So I will try to come up with something that I can remember, but hard to guess. Okay, that looks like it likes it. So I'm going to go ahead and create an account. And that's how simple it is to create an account with Replit.com. So you're gonna have to tell, depending on your skill set, say beginner, intermediate, because I'm making this series for programmers who've never had any programming language, and mostly for my 12-year-old nephew and my 6-year-old son, I'm going to say not at all. So I'm not going to choose a tutorial. I'm just going to say, no, I got this, and close out anything. So this is how your dashboard in Replit will look like. Okay, so the very first thing I will do is create our first Python REPL. So I'll go to create, and like I told you earlier, you can use 50 plus programming languages that you can learn in Replit.com. So as you can see, it's Python, Node.js, C, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Python with Turtle, C++, Java. So these are all the programming languages that you can choose to learn from. Today, I'm going to choose Python, and it will assign a title for me, but I'm going to override it and say, this is my first Hello World. So I'm going to name it accordingly. So it's going to be a public REPL. That means anybody with the link can see your REPL. So, and that's it. Create REPL. And then Python will do all the hard work for you. It will install Python and it'll create a container with the Python interpreter. And there you go. Everything is ready. And the very first file you will see, the only file that you will see is main.py. Py is an extension for all Python programmers. And main is the name of the file that we always, as a code convention in Python, try to write our code in. So this is a blank file. So let's see how we can write our Hello World program. So it is as simple as print, open parentheses, I will open double quotes, and don't worry about all these suggestions from REPL because REPL is a code editor. It is smart. It will try to guess what you're trying to do and offer suggestions. If you've used any kind of search on Google, see how it tries to autocomplete your search. This is pretty much similar to that. It could be annoying, but bear with it. And so I've closed my parentheses. I mean, REPL closed it for me. I just opened the parentheses. REPL already closed it for me. I opened double quotes. REPL already closed it for me. So all I have to do is print my hello world. That is as simple as that. And then I run it. And that is your very first Hello World program. It's as simple as that. Now, you can also use single quotes to do the same exact thing. There you go. And as you can notice, every print statement that you're writing here, it is displaying it in a new line. Well, this is pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and easy to learn. One thing here is, what if the string that you're trying to print already has a single quote? This is a question my 5-year-old asked me, Mommy, how do I print Mommy's computer? I'm like, okay. So if you try to do that using single quote, now Python thinks that this is the terminal single quote for the single quote that you started, and then everything else, it doesn't know what to do, right? Python, any computer is both smart and dumb at the same time. Dumb in the sense that you have to tell it exactly what to do. So in this instance, I've told it that this is the beginning of my single quote, that's the ending of my single quote. Everything between those two, you need to print it. But when I try to use an apostrophe, computer is not smart enough to understand that that's an apostrophe. It's trying to think that it's a terminal single quote. So there's two ways that you can fix the situation. Number one, you can use an escape character called a backslash. So when I put a backslash, it automatically understands, okay, this single quote is a part of that string. So let me not worry about that. So I still have to close my single quote. So Python will understand that that's the terminal. It's still looking for that terminal single quote. So when I try to do that, there you go. Python has printed it. Or another way to do the same thing is using double quotes as your open close quotes. So when you do that, you don't have to use a backslash character because it is looking for a terminal double quotes. But what if your text has single quotes and double quotes in the paragraph that you're trying to print? So let's try to see how we can handle that situation. So I want to print something that says, Mommy says, I like chocolate. I mean, who doesn't like chocolate? So how would you print something like this? Obviously, we've talked about using escape characters. In this case, I have to escape it twice because I have two legitimate double quotes here. So when I try to print that or run that, it prints, Mommy says, I like chocolate. Another scenario, what if I wanted to print to my dear Watson? Well, the red line, the red underline here that you see is something the REPL is trying to populate for you to tell you that there is something wrong. So anytime you see a red underline in REPL, understand that you did something wrong or you forgotten something you're supposed to have in there. So in this case, I will still go ahead and try to run it and see. I know that there's something wrong just by looking at it, but I want to see what it is. So it says syntax error EOL while scanning. So EOL is end of line. So Python was expecting at the end of this line, it was expecting one single quote and one parentheses, but it didn't find that. So it doesn't know what to do. So what if you want to print something like to my dear Watson in two separate lines? How would you do that? So here I am going to introduce you to a special character called 1, 2, 3. And Replit is automatically trying to populate the closing ones for me, which I don't want it. So 3 single quotes, and then you end it with 3 single quotes as well. Now, if you try to look at it, there's no red underline. That looks good. So when I try to run this, it will print to my dear Watson in 2 separate lines in the same print statement. I could do it using 2 separate print statements, but I can accomplish it using 1 print statement. How about that? So instead of 3 single quotes, I can also use 3 double quotes. So this is the end of the video where I wanted to teach you the first Hello World program. So here's a few exercises for you to do. So how about you print for me and whatever your name is using the print statement. And another statement for I'm learning Suchi. And a statement that says these are the 3 statements I want you to write using 3 separate print statements. And maybe let me know how it goes. Thank you for watching.